Her side of the closet was empty, not half empty, not cleared out in a hurry. Every hanger was gone. Even the ones I'd bought specifically because she said wire hangers left marks on her shoulders. Those were gone too. I stood in the doorway of the bedroom for a long time, long enough that the dog started whining from the living room, probably wondering why I hadn't moved in a while. Long enough that the coffee I'd made before driving over went cold in my hand. I'd driven 40 minutes to drop off a box of Serena's things. Books she'd left at my place, a jacket, her grandmother's ceramic bowl that she'd texted me about 3 times in the last 2 weeks. Very specifically. The blue bowl, not the white one. The blue one with the chipped rim. Like I'd gotten them confused. Like I even had a white ceramic bowl. She'd given me a key back in October, when we were still talking about me moving in. That was 4 months ago. I still had the key. She'd never asked for it back. I should have called first. I know that now. The apartment was a 2-bedroom on the 4th floor of a building in Naperville, one of those newer constructions where everything looks clean from the outside, and then you get inside and realize the walls are basically cardboard. Serena had moved in 18 months ago with a roommate named, I had to think for a second, Joanna. No, that was somebody else. Her roommate's name was Lee, who I'd met exactly twice. Once at a birthday dinner in November, where she'd been quiet and a little distracted, and once in the parking lot of this building when I was helping Serena carry in furniture, and Lee had held the door and said something polite. I couldn't tell you what her voice sounded like. I set the box down on the kitchen counter and went back to the bedroom doorway. Her dresser was still there, but the top of it was bare. No jewelry tray, no perfume bottles lined up by height, no photograph of her and her college friends at some lake in Wisconsin. I walked back through the living room. The couch was still there, the TV, the rug, but small things were missing. A plant that used to sit by the window, a stack of books on the coffee table that I'd assumed belonged to both of them, but now I understood were Serena's. I should have felt something dramatic. I think I was waiting to. Instead, I just felt like I'd walked into a room where a conversation had already ended. I was picking up the box to leave when the second bedroom door opened. She looked surprised. That's the only word for it. Not scared, not angry, just surprised. The way you look when you reach into your coat pocket expecting to find nothing and your fingers close around something small and unexpected. You're the boyfriend, she said. I was, I said. She looked at the box, then at me. She was wearing a gray hoodie with the strings pulled out of the hood, which I only noticed because it's a specific kind of comfortable that you don't usually let strangers see. Her hair was up. She had reading glasses pushed to the top of her head. She's gone, Lee said. Like, actually gone. She moved out. I didn't say anything right away. When? 5 days ago. She crossed her arms, not defensively, more like she was cold. The apartment was a little cold, actually. She said she was going to text you. She did not text me. Lay looked at the box again, then at the counter where I'd set it down, then at me. Something shifted in her expression. Not pity exactly. More like the particular discomfort of being the person who has to deliver news that someone else should have delivered weeks ago. Do you want to sit down, she said. I almost said no. I had the box. I could leave. Whatever was happening here wasn't really my problem anymore, and if it had been, Serena had made it clear that she wasn't interested in it being a shared problem. But it was a Tuesday evening in February, and I'd driven 40 minutes, and I had a cold cup of coffee in my hand, and somehow those things together were enough. Sure, I said. Lee made fresh coffee without asking if I wanted any. She just did it the way people do when they need to do something with their hands. I sat at the kitchen island on a stool that wobbled slightly on the left side and watched her move around the kitchen. How long did she know she was leaving? I asked. Lee was quiet for a second. She gave me 60 days notice. I did the math. So she knew in December. She didn't say why, Lee said quickly, like she was trying to be fair. Just that she'd found another place, in the city. She said she'd been thinking about moving to Chicago for a while. Serena had mentioned Chicago to me exactly once in passing in September, the way you mention a city when you're talking about a friend who lives there, not as a plan, not as a thing she was considering, just Chicago, a word. Did she? I stopped. I don't know anything about you two, Lee said. I don't want to speak out of turn. No, I know. That's okay. She set a mug in front of me, plain white, a small chip on the handle. She kept the chipped one for herself. She was here until Friday, she said. Movers came Thursday. She slept here Thursday night, and then Friday morning she was gone. She left a note on the counter. It said thanks for everything and that she'd Venmo me for the utilities. I wrapped both hands around the mug. Has she? Lay glanced at her phone, which was face down on the counter. No. We sat with that for a moment. How much? I asked. I'm not offering to pay it, I said. I'm trying to understand what kind of exit this was. She looked at me for a second like she was recalibrating something. Then she said, February's utilities aren't due yet, but she owes me for January. Gas, electric, and internet split 2 ways is usually around $160. I paid it because I always pay it and she Venmos me back. She hasn't Venmoed me back for January. Has she been in contact at all? She texted me on Saturday to say she'd gotten there safely. Lee paused. I didn't ask. I turned the mug in my hands. The chip on the handle on Lee's mug was on the left side and she'd turned it so the chip faced away from her. Automatic. She'd done it without thinking. I'm sorry, I said. This is a strange situation. It's fine. She said it like she meant it. Honestly, I've been sitting in this apartment for 5 days trying to decide if I should be upset and I keep on just confused. Like, we weren't close. We were roommates. Polite roommates. But I still feel like I missed something. Yeah, I said. I know that feeling. Outside, the February wind was doing what February wind does in Illinois, the kind of cold that doesn't have anything to prove, but does it anyway. One of the windows in the living room had a slight whistle to it. I'd noticed it before when I'd been here, always assumed it would get fixed. What do you do? Lee asked. Not intrusively, just filling the silence. I'm a project manager, construction, mostly commercial builds. Do you like it? I thought about it. I like the problem-solving part. I don't like the part where you get attached to a building and then it becomes a parking garage. She smiled at that, just slightly. I'm in UX design. What does that mean to you at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday? It means, she said, that I have been staring at the same wireframe for 3 days and I cannot figure out why it looks wrong, and sitting here is genuinely the most productive thing I've done all evening. I laughed. Actual laugh, the kind that surprises you. The coffee was better than the one I'd made. I didn't say that out loud. I don't know when I stopped thinking about leaving. It happened gradually, the way hypothermia supposedly works. You don't notice the moment it shifts. You just realize at some point that you've been warm for a while. We moved from the kitchen island to the couch sometime around 8. The wobbling stool was getting to my back. Lee brought a blanket from somewhere and draped it over her legs, the way people do in their own space without thinking about whether a stranger might find it weird. I didn't find it weird. At some point, she mentioned that the apartment lease was up in April. That's soon, I said. Yeah. She pulled the blanket higher. I've been trying to decide whether to look for a new roommate or just absorb the extra rent by myself for a while. The math isn't great. What's the rent? $1,400 for the 2-bedroom. She glanced at me. I know that's reasonable for Naperville. I'm still not excited about paying all of it. Have you looked at 1-bedrooms? A little. The thing is, I have a home office setup that took me 6 months to get right. I have a second monitor and a stand-up desk and cable management that I spent an entire weekend on. I'd have to start over. She said it like it was a real loss, which I understood completely. Put it in the 2nd bedroom. I have a 2nd bedroom because I have a roommate. The roommate just left. She looked at me. I can't afford this apartment alone. Right, I know. We were quiet for a second. You could find a roommate specifically for the 2nd bedroom, I said. Advertise it as a room, not the whole apartment. That way you keep the office. She thought about it. I'd have to talk to the landlord. What does your lease say about subletting? She got up and came back with a folder. An actual physical folder. That alone told me something about her. She found the relevant clause and read it out loud, and then we spent about 20 minutes going through it together, not because either of us is a lawyer, but because sometimes you just need to look at a problem with another person to feel like it's manageable. We figured out she probably needed the landlord's written approval to add a new tenant. The lease wasn't clear on subletting versus a standard roommate replacement, which meant she'd need to ask. It's late to call, I said. I'll email tonight. I checked the time. It was 9:47. I should go, I said. I didn't move. You don't have to. I looked at her. I mean, She didn't seem flustered, which I noticed. It's cold out, and you've been sitting here for 2 hours, and it doesn't seem like there's anywhere you need to be. That's either an observation or a question. Bit of both. I don't have anywhere I need to be, I said. My dog is at my brother's. He watches him on Tuesdays. Then stay. She said it simply. I'll order Thai food. I've been thinking about curry since 6. I thought about it for maybe 3 seconds. Green or red? Green? Fine. While we were waiting for the food, she pulled up her wireframe on her laptop. She didn't ask me to look at it. She just turned it toward me a little, the way you'd show someone a crossword clue you were stuck on. What feels wrong about it? I asked. That's what I can't figure out. I looked at it. It was a checkout flow for something. I could see fields for shipping and payment, some button hierarchy stuff. The primary button and the secondary button are the same height, I said. Your eye doesn't know which one to go to. She stared at it. Then she said, I have been looking at this for 11 hours. Sometimes you just need someone to look at it. She closed the laptop. Do you do that at work? Look at things until you can't see them anymore? All the time. We call it blueprint blindness. You've read the plan so many times that you stop seeing what's actually there, and you start seeing what you expect to be there. She liked that. I could tell because she looked off to the side a little, the way people do when something is clicking into place. The food came at 10:20. We ate on the couch with the containers between us and an old movie on TV, one of those that plays on cable specifically so that it's there when you need it. Neither of us was really watching it. We were talking. She grew up in Rockford. She went to University of Illinois for graphic design and then pivoted to UX after graduation when she realized she wanted to work with how people use things rather than just how they look. She'd been at her current job for 3 years. She had a sister in Nashville. She didn't have a dog, but she thought she wanted one eventually, something medium-sized, maybe a beagle mix. I told her I grew up in Elmhurst, that I'd gone to DePaul, that I'd ended up in project management almost accidentally because I'd studied architecture and then realized I was better at running the job site than drawing the plans. That I had a 4-year-old rescue mutt named Chester, but I caught myself right away. Chester was on the list. I'd said it without thinking. She didn't notice, or she didn't react. She just asked what he looked like. Brown, I said. Medium, very serious expression. Like a dog who's disappointed in his life choices but has made peace with it. She laughed again. That real one, not the polite one. It was after midnight when I noticed the time. I really should. And then her phone buzzed on the coffee table. Face up this time. She glanced at it, and her face changed in a way that was small but unmistakable. A very specific kind of still. The kind that means you're controlling your reaction. She picked it up. Read it. Set it back down face down. Serena, I asked. She didn't answer right away. Yeah. What did she say? Lay was quiet for a second. She said she heard from someone. I don't know who, mutual friend maybe, that you came by. I looked at the box still sitting on the kitchen counter. I'd never given it to anyone. I'd just left it there. How would she know that already? I said. I don't know. She picked up the phone again. Read it again. She wants to know if everything's okay. Something about that made me laugh, but not a good laugh. The kind that comes out when something is so precisely wrong that your body doesn't know what else to do with it. What are you going to say? I asked. Lee set the phone down again. Didn't answer it. I haven't decided. We looked at each other. She does this, Lee said carefully. Not to me specifically. I don't know her well enough. But I've heard her on the phone. She's very good at positioning herself at the center of things, even things she walked away from. I nodded slowly. Yeah, you knew that. I knew parts of it. She turned the phone over and typed something, set it back down. I didn't ask what she wrote. For what it's worth, she said, I think she was always going to leave. I don't think it was about you specifically. I think she's just someone who leaves. That was either the kindest thing she could have said or the most painful. Possibly both. I sat with it for a minute. Did she talk about me? I asked. Not fishing for something, just genuinely needing a data point. Occasionally, she said you were steady. She said it without editorial, in a tone that I could not read. Steady. Great, I said. She smiled a little. I think she meant it neutrally. That's somehow worse. I know. At 1 a.m, her phone buzzed again. This time she looked at it for longer. What? I asked. My landlord replied to my email. She showed me the screen. He actually replied at 1 in the morning. The email was short. He was fine with her finding a new roommate. He wanted a completed rental application and a background check authorization, and he'd need to sign an addendum to the lease. He also mentioned, briefly, and in a way that could have been anything, that if she found herself unable to fill the room and needed to discuss early lease termination, he had a prospective tenant interested in the unit and was open to a conversation. Huh, I said. He's never up at 1 in the morning. She looked at the email again. He's a 67-year-old man from Downers Grove. Maybe he couldn't sleep either. Maybe. She set the phone down. He's actually being decent about it. I expected him to be annoying. People surprise you. She looked at me. There was a moment brief where the sentence landed on both of us a little differently than I'd meant it. They do, she said. I left at 1:40. She walked me to the door. The box was still on the counter. I picked it up on the way, and she didn't comment on it, which I respected. Some things you just let be. In the hallway, under the kind of fluorescent lighting that makes everyone look slightly worse than they are, she said, I still need to find a roommate. You're a project manager, she said. You probably know how to vet a rental application. I know exactly 2 things about tenant screening, and they're both from a podcast. That's 2 more things than I know. I shifted the box to one arm. I'll text you. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed again. You don't have my number. No, I said. I was going to ask for it. She gave it to me. I typed it in wrong the first time and had to fix it while she watched, which was the most human thing that happened all evening. Text me, she said, when you get home. So I know you made it. It's 40 minutes. It's 1:40 in the morning in February. I couldn't argue with that. I said goodnight, and she went back inside, and I took the elevator down and stood in the lobby for a second, holding a box of my ex-girlfriend's things, feeling lighter than I had in months. I texted her from the parking lot. Just made it out of the building. Still working on the 40 minutes. Impressive progress. I drove home on 88 with the heat up and the radio off and let the silence sit with me, which was not usually something I was good at. It sat fine this time. I should tell you about the part I skipped. Back in December, 2 weeks before Christmas, Serena had told me she thought we were in different places. Those exact words. Different places. I'd asked what that meant, and she'd said she didn't know exactly, just that she felt like she was moving towards something and wasn't sure we were moving together. I had said, like an idiot, then let's figure out if we are. She'd said okay, and then nothing changed. Or everything changed in a way that was invisible until it wasn't. She was still around. We still did the regular things. I still drove 40 minutes to pick her up for dinner, still met her friends, still had the key. It felt normal, except for the way she'd sometimes look at me, like she was calculating something. I didn't ask again. I should have. When I got home that night from her apartment, the night with the empty closet and the box, I put Serena's things in my storage unit. The blue ceramic bowl wrapped in a dish towel that had been in my kitchen for 4 months. The books, the jacket. I didn't mail them. I didn't throw them away. I just put them somewhere that wasn't looking at me. 2 days later, Serena texted me directly. It was short. She said she was sorry she hadn't said goodbye in person. She said she hoped I understood. I sat with that for a while. I replied, I hope your new place is everything you needed. She didn't respond. I found that was fine. Lee and I texted for the next 3 weeks. Not constantly. The way you text someone when you're thinking about something and realize they'd find it interesting, which turned out to be more often than I expected. She sent me a screenshot of the updated wireframe with the button hierarchy fixed and typed. Someone with 0 UX training fixed in 3 seconds what I couldn't see for 11 hours. I sent her a photo of a job site where they'd framed a doorway 3 inches too narrow for the ADA compliance spec and typed, blueprint blindness, real and devastating. We got coffee on a Saturday in early March. Technically, it was the first time we'd seen each other since that Tuesday, except that it didn't feel like a first time. It felt like a next time, which is different. The coffee place was a small one in downtown Naperville that she'd been going to since college. The kind with mismatched furniture and a chalkboard menu and at least one outlet that doesn't work. She ordered before I got there, and when I arrived, my coffee was already on the table, black, which is how I take it, and which I was almost certain I hadn't told her. How did you know? I said. She looked at me. You drank it black at my apartment. You remembered that. I remember things. She said it without making a thing of it, which somehow made it a thing. We stayed for 2 hours. The couple next to us had a quiet argument about a vacation they were planning, and then seemed to resolve it by the time they left, which I found oddly comforting. Life continuing around us in all its small dramas. She'd gotten a response from 2 people about the room. One was a grad student who'd replied in all lowercase and hadn't asked any questions about the apartment. One was a woman her age who'd asked about the building's package policy and whether there was natural light in the bedroom. The second one, I said immediately. I know, she said. The first one scared me and I couldn't explain why. The lowercase is a tell. Not malicious, just not ready. Not ready for what? Adulting, she pointed at me. That is the most accurate thing you've said. The woman with the questions about natural light moved in April 1st. Lee texted me a photo of the signed lease addendum with the caption, "Landlord approved." Also, still replying to emails at midnight apparently. I sent back, "Man cannot sleep." She sent back, "Truly his cross to bear." The last thing I want to tell you about is something that happened in April, a few weeks after the new roommate moved in. Lee and I had been spending more time together by then. Not a defined thing yet, just more. She'd come to one of my job sites on a Saturday because she'd mentioned she'd never been to an active construction site, and I'd mentioned it was interesting, and somehow that had become a plan. She wore the wrong shoes, which I'd told her she would, and she'd said she knew, but they were the closest thing to boots she owned. We were standing on the 3rd floor of a commercial build in Lisle, looking out at the framing where the windows would go, when she said, "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you think Serena knew what she was doing? When she left?" I thought about it. "I think she knew she was leaving," I said. "I don't think she knew what she was doing to the people she left behind. I think those felt like separate things to her." Lay nodded. She was looking out at the framing. "I think some people believe they can disappear cleanly," she said. "Like their leaving won't leave a shape. It always leaves a shape." I know. The wind came through the open framing, and she tucked her hair behind her ear, which did exactly nothing to keep it in place. I had the impulse to say something, and didn't. And then I had it again, and also didn't. Then she turned to look at me and I said, "I'm glad I still had the key." She looked at me for a second. "I'm glad you came to return the box," she said. Not the same thing. Neither of us pointed that out. On the drive back, she fell asleep in the passenger seat somewhere around the on-ramp to 88, which I took as either a high compliment or an indictment of my conversational abilities, and decided to call it the first one. The late afternoon light came through the window at a low angle, the way it does in April, that particular quality of light that makes you feel like you're inside a memory while it's still happening. I didn't turn the radio on. I just drove and let the city come toward us, and didn't think about the box in storage or the empty closet, or the text I'd sent at 1:40 in the morning from a parking lot in February. I thought about the chipped mug, the reading glasses on top of her head, the wireframe with the wrong button hierarchy, the way she'd said, "I remember things" without making it a thing. And somewhere on the highway between Lisle and the exit for Elmhurst, without saying it out loud to anyone, I stopped thinking of that Tuesday as the night I went to return my ex's things. I started thinking of it as the night I met Lee.